This is The Professionals, a podcast by music business technology and broadcast media technology students on Outcast OCCR Owens Community College Radio. In this series, students will interview industry professionals in their respective fields to help gather an idea of what it's like to work in their industry.
Hello, my name is Elisia Ackerman. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Tom Sneed, who is the current music director for Clay High School in Oregon, Ohio.
Hi, Elisia. Good to see you.
Could you tell us what your official job title is?
My official job title is vocal music director, musical theater teacher, and music technology teacher and drama director. So I do a lot of things at Clay High School.
And what would you say is your exact area of expertise?
Well, my undergrad training was in vocal music performance, and my master's training is in administration. So those two gifts have blended together. Those two programs have blended together to give me a lot of experience in being able to not only educate, but to manage and to plan and to create programs that are going to meet the needs of the students.
Would you be able to give us a general description of your schooling and education that led up to this point?
A long time ago, thought I was going to be a music teacher, so I went to Bowling Green State University and completed the vocal music performance degree. But along the way, I answered a call to ministry, and so I served as a church music director for 25 years and a associate pastor. And then about 12 years ago, felt the calling upon my life to give back to students the way I was given to as a young student, and returned to education, and from there have been continuing on this journey of investing in young people to help them find a lot of their identity as musicians, as performers, and for many kind of the course of their life, the direction they're going to follow.
So you mentioned being a worship pastor. How did your education help you with that particular job? And what did you take away from that pastoral position that helped you in the classroom?
Well, the music training was, as I look back on it, essential in terms of being able to lead in a worship setting musicians, vocalists, to create both contemporary music band type settings and then orchestral settings, and so being able to understand music theory and the language of music, and being able to take the skills I had developed as a young person and studying music, bringing those to the pastoral setting was, in my opinion, a very positive thing, because it helped me to do more than just be someone who teaches by repetition or by rote, or just relying on your talent alone. Having that basic and really more than basic, an advanced understanding of music theory, music concepts was very valuable to me. And so taking that into the church setting was able to help others, even in that environment, become better, and to take their gifts, their talents they had, and to develop them to lead a congregation and making pretty high quality music.
For anyone who is looking to pursue music education, what would you advise they study in college or any other place, and what certain skills should they look to develop?
By far, start learning piano. That is foundational as a teacher, whether you are a vocal teacher or an instrumental teacher. Being able to understand how the theoretical concepts of music tie back to the piano, being able to accompany, being able to, especially as a vocal music teacher, being able to help soloists by being able to do more than just plunk out the melody, helping them to give them the harmony structures they need to learn a piece. As an instrumentalist and an instrumentalist teacher, having the skills to play piano is one of the best things that you can do. And it's one of those things that so many people, even though you'll go to college and you'll be challenged to complete piano proficiencies, you can give yourself a big advantage if you study piano going into a music education program.
I would definitely agree with that. What types of continuing education do you particularly participate in? So classes, workshops, research.
Mm-hmm. Well, teachers have to renew their license every 5 years after you get your professional license. It's a 5-year rotation, and you are required to accumulate a certain amount of continuing education units or take graduate classes, that type of thing. And so for me, it was a matter of wanting to, in the education world, expand the credentials that I have as a music educator. I have an undergrad in voice. I have ministry credentials, ordination credentials. But as a teacher in the education and as a stakeholder in education, I wanted to increase what I can bring to the table. And so I pursued a master's degree in administration, business administration. And so having those courses, those requirements as a teacher helps you. On one hand, it kind of forces you to keep learning. You're required to get that for licensure. And so there are many opportunities available to take CEU type courses, professional development, conferences, just about everywhere. Every group that you associate with as an educator has some type of a professional development arm. And so you can take advantage of all those programs.
And before we get any further, what college did you attend for those degrees?
So Bowling Green State University is my undergrad. I did my online administration program through American College of Education, and my ministerial studies is through Church of the Nazarene.
And how did your administrative degree kind of morph into where you are right now?
Well, when I was in the ministry, my last assignment was the administrative pastor, which essentially means the person responsible for administering all the programs of the congregation, taking care of the buildings, making sure that staff are fulfilling their responsibilities, and that type of management experience. So I brought into my graduate studies as an educator that background, and having experience in leading large projects. For example, one of the last projects I led as a minister was the completion of a new church complex, new building, several $1 million, and it was a project that we worked with. I worked as a manager of that and helping the other people on the church congregation building team bring that to fruition. So that type of understanding how to work with people and how to lead and to offer leadership fit right in well with the things that I have done in the school district in terms of helping along the lines of discovering vision, being part of the district leadership team with the program that we have going on right now, built on the principles of Focus 3 organization. It's a long story. I don't want to go there. It's a side story, but there's a lot of things that I've been able to bring my past experience and my training to bear to be a part of the team at our district to move what we're trying to accomplish there forward.
Right, that's excellent. So in regards to music education, what would you say are the pros and cons of your particular profession?
Well, by far the pros are being able to invest in young people and see them succeed and discover kind of the direction for what comes next after high school. Being able to do what I love. I'd love to perform and sing just as much as my students do. And so that's something that on one hand makes my job not a job. It's just fun. But there are definitely cons. We have lots of benchmarks we have to meet as educators. You're evaluated every 2 or 3 years depending on how you do in your evaluation. There are many expectations you have to meet every day, and so some of that is, I wouldn't say it's busy work, but it's certainly work that takes away from the joy of the other part of the job, and so It's true of everything. It's true of life. You got the good and the bad, and so you just have to learn how to manage it to the best of your ability.
In regards to your education license, what did you have to do in college to kind of get to where you are able to teach at high school?
So my journey is a little different from most people who are coming through college right now. So when I finished my undergrad, I knew I was not going to go directly into teaching. So at that point, this is nearly 30 years ago, at that point I did not continue and complete the licensing testing that was in place 30 years ago for a teacher's license. So I graduated with my degree, but went on to do something else. So when I decided to come back into education, the state of Ohio has a program called Resident Educator Pathway. And so with my undergrad degree, I was able to apply for the Resident Educator licensure. Had to take a few extra classes to kind of get back into the requirements for a teaching license as of 10 years ago. Completed that program and then essentially looked for opportunity for employment. Once I secured my position, the Resident Educator program, that licensure program through the state of Ohio, was a 4-year process in which I was assigned a mentor teacher through our district, and they help you complete the ongoing steps that lasted for 4 years to end up with permanent professional licensure. So for me, that was a little bit of a sideways journey, one way or the other, because I didn't come directly out of college into the teaching profession. Now today, if you do that, you're going to take your praxis test and pass that, and with a certain score, then you are going to make yourself eligible for licensure. For me, it was kind of a roundabout way to get there because my career went in a roundabout way. And so it's essentially the same, though. Bottom line, you still complete your undergrad. You still got to complete a licensure test of some type. You still have to get into a mentoring program your first year or two as a resident educator in the state of Ohio.
Now shifting over to the students a little, when you have new students who are new to music, what do you like to focus on to almost get them started on the path where they can begin to develop more important music skills and grow a real interest in music?
I think it's important to find out what they are excited about, what they like, and to help them then have experiences that's going to capitalize on that. So, for example, if I have a student who comes into choir who does not want to sing in front of anybody, but yet they've expressed an interest in singing, the key is to baby step them along the way to give them confidence so that they can find their voice. They can find it in a group setting, then they eventually can find it in smaller group settings, and eventually even as a soloist. I can think of many students who came into choir very afraid, not wanting to be noticed, not wanting to stick out, and by the time they graduate high school, they are doing lots of things on stage or in performance opportunities that they very much are noticed. So they made a big journey of growth. So finding that one thing that they get excited about, that's going to help. Selecting material that is engaging and appealing from a vocal music point of view, selecting choral songs that aren't everything. They're not always the classical type. They're not always the hard literature. You do fun things as well, to help kids, again, find a place to kind of get comfortable. And then just little by little, you stretch, give more challenging things to do, more opportunities. And you can see pretty easily when a student is responding to the stretch and to the challenge of growing. And so just being intuitive and being kind of aware of where students are at, not only in your class, as I say, a choir or a musical theater class, but other things that's going on in their lives too. It's not a silo. It's not a vacuum. It's everything we do in education is, if you're wise about it, you understand it's the big picture. So you're trying to constantly engage the student at many levels.
How does also directing the theater department play into your role as choir and music director?
It adds a lot of time. into my week, but I do so. I welcome that, So my day easily is a 12-hour day, most days of the week, 7 to 7, it's kind of a thing, and weekends. And then when it's show week, it's almost nonstop. And you're a performer, you know how that goes. So give me that question again. I lost my train of thought there for a moment.
So how does also directing the theater department play into your role as choir and music director?
Okay, so I have to kind of keep them balanced because I could easily lean toward one or the other at the expense of one or the other. So having some pretty strong time management routines. I make a list every day. Every day I have a list of what has to get done that day, and sometimes the list is even looking out a few weeks so that I know what's coming up and I don't forget something, because that's really easy to do, is to forget something. So keeping, some type of a system to help yourself stay organized, that you can record things down, whether it's my Google Calendar or whether it's just my list on the legal pad, all that is to ensure that I am meeting the demands of both roles. And there are times certainly when one takes precedence over the other. And as the person who is tasked with the responsibility, at least in my current setting, of keeping all that moving forward, it's just one of those things that you have to have some abilities to take some self-initiative to make things happen. And
how would you say I wouldn't say it's new, but the musical theater career and tech class, how is that kind of played into all three of those aspects?
I would say, and looking back at the journey and how we got to have the class and the program in place that we have now, looking back, it was easily a 5 or 6 year process that started with an awareness on my part that the career technical programs in the state of Ohio includes the performing arts. And then knowing that our school is a comprehensive school in which the career technical program is in-house, once that kind of became active on my radar, so to speak, it was easy to kind of pursue, okay, how do we make this happen at Clay? And so knowing the parameters that was available to us, began to cast this vision for what could be. So you start talking to the administrators, you start talking to people who support the performing arts in our community, and begin to get people to see there's maybe something of potential here that we could do that would be new. So that started 5-6 years ago, before the pandemic. And going into the pandemic, we had initiated our plans to convert the space we have now into our new performing arts studio. Then the pandemic hit and everything got put on hold, right? Fortunately, the people that were involved were all still in place when we came out of the pandemic. And so all that work that had been done to kind of create that vision and cast that vision to, hey, can we do something like this? And here's how it would benefit our students. Here's what it would take to make it happen. That support system was still there. And so we, again, picked it up and started to run with it. And it took a good 2 years or so for the ability for the studio, for the resources to come together to make it happen. And fortunately, our superintendent was 100% behind it, and so was our board of education. Some key members on there, 100% behind it. And lo and behold, when it's all said and done, about a $1.5 million project, and it's a great space for the kids now who are in musical theater, in that they can receive some instruction to prepare them for what comes after high school. So dance instruction was one of the key elements in the program, and now we also have the technology part that will be coming available to our students next year. So it was a vision. We didn't let it go. We just kept hanging on to it.
What specifically do you teach in that musical theater class?
So we have musical theater 1 and 2 currently, which are juniors and seniors. They are taught leadership skills, professional skills, for the job place. There's a component of dance instruction, which they are learning the fundamentals, particularly of dance and of movement, to again help them be in a position to, if they wanted to pursue musical theater training at the collegiate level, they're not just going in cold. They have some foundation that they've learned through our program. They're receiving vocal instruction, receiving instruction in the acting process, and understanding the industry, the performing arts industry. So that happens over the course of 2 years. It's a 2-period block for each grade level. They are learning music theory. We try to cover a broad range of music, acting, and dance that will prepare them for the college entrance process and the audition process to the best that they can be covered. And then next year we'll be starting the new courses. So freshmen and sophomores will be introduced at an intro level. They'll get a taste of what the performing arts career pathway looks like. And for those who are interested in music technology and recording technology, tech side of the industry, they'll be able to go into our studio and learn the equipment, perhaps create their own music, and become the next YouTube star. Who knows?
Yeah, that program is amazing. I've loved being a part of it. Okay, and looking into the future with the new Performing Arts Center we just got, what are you looking forward to utilizing with the future students?
Well, really, just continuing the path that we're on and trying to increase our numbers in the program. So as we've started off now, we want to see those numbers grow. We're fortunate in our community to have some very good feeder theatrical programs that start children at a young age, and they move up through the years with our junior Limelighters and our community theater summer program and our RAM drama program. All of those programs are feeding and will feed students into the high school level program and what we offer at the junior high as well. So we want to see those numbers increase. We want to see the opportunities for the technology side of the industry increase. So we're starting with the recording studio and music performance, but we'd love to see the lighting aspect of that come to the theatrical lighting aspect of performing arts. Being able to offer instruction in that or sound, those type of things. So stage management, those type of areas which we can not only focus on the performance side but also on the technical side of things as well. So there's a lot of room to grow.
And do you have any last bit of advice for anyone who's listening who is looking into a profession as a music educator?
If it's your passion, go for it. If it's a way, if you're looking at music education maybe as a backup plan, so to speak, to, perhaps you want to be the next first violin player in a symphony or something. There's sometimes you have to debate, okay, am I just going to go for a performance training degree or am I going to be an educator? I think they're vastly different, and the educator really has to have first a heart for others and a willingness to pretty much do kind of whatever it's going to be required to help those students succeed. And sometimes, I've been around a lot of top-notch, high-quality, high-caliber performers throughout my life, and some you can tell are educators kind of at heart, some are not, and in a big way. So if you're going to go into music education, I'd say really know that's kind of your heartbeat, your passion. And then you still have to have a commitment to being the best you can be. So just because you're a music teacher doesn't necessarily mean, okay, well, I don't have to develop my talent to a certain level, and the performers are over here and I'm kind of down at a lower. That shouldn't enter your mind at all. You still always are striving to be your best and to bring your best. And so that means as an educator, as a music educator, you still got to practice sometimes. You hear stories of professional players who practice 6, 7, 8 hours a day to maintain their skills. An educator, you still need to practice, so it's not that you're going to become less of a musician. You still have to give it the very best you can, and then in doing that, you're trying to pass that on to somebody else, and perhaps that realization is what keeps you going. You're trying to pass it on.
All right. Thank you for your time and your willingness to allow me to interview you for this podcast. This has been Tom Sneed, Music Director for Clay High School, and on behalf of my audio engineer, Maggie, I'm Elisia Ackerman.
This has been the Professionals Podcast by Music Business Technology and Broadcast Media Technology students. Join us next time on Outcast OCCR, Owens Community College Radio.